Why go it alone? Crop West Insurance gives you expert support, better commissions, and in-depth educational retreats that set you up for success. They've spent 60 years perfecting the art of growing crop insurance agencies, and now it's your turn to join the movement. Crop West Insurance, where agents come to thrive. To find out more, please visit cropwestinsurance.com. Crop West Insurance Incorporated is an equal opportunity provider and employer. Hey there, and welcome to the Crop Insurance Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Rydell, a third-generation crop insurance agent, and I'm here to help you navigate the ins and outs of crop insurance. It's what my family's been doing for generations, so you're in good hands. Our goal here is simple, to educate our listeners. Crop insurance can be complex and overwhelming, but I believe that understanding it is crucial for every farmer. So whether you're a seasoned farmer looking to stay updated or a newcomer seeking guidance, this podcast is for you. Welcome back to the Crop Insurance Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Rydell. And today we're going to be diving into the world of dry peas. Think large and small kabuli chickpeas, lentils, green and yellow peas, you name it. But we're not going to be just talking about planting and harvesting. The purpose of this episode is that we're going to be talking about prices. So how does the risk management agency figure out the projected prices and harvest prices for these crops? And what happens when they can't figure it out? Because let's be honest, insurance pricing can sometimes feel like a little bit of mystery math, and that's why we're here to break it all down in plain English. So go ahead and grab a cup of coffee, hop on your tractor, or settle into your farm office, because we're about to unravel the mystery behind how your dry pea insurance prices are being set. All right, so let's start with the basics. What are the projected price and harvest price, and why do they matter for crop insurance? Now, I know some of this is a little bit of a repeat from our previous episodes, but I felt it was pretty necessary to dive into it a little bit in this episode to kind of set the tone for when we explain how these prices are calculated. The important concept to understand is that your projected prices and harvest prices are critical numbers because they help determine what your guarantee is going to be under a revenue protection policy. The projected price, that one's going to be set before you start planting. And it's going to help calculate your guarantee and help you decide which coverage level you're going to want to take. Because remember, with revenue protection, your initial guarantee is going to be calculated by taking your approved yield times your coverage level times your projected price times your share. So you need to understand how that works and how the projected price affects your initial coverage on a revenue protection policy. Now, the other number that we're talking about today is your harvest price. Now, the harvest price is established or set after harvest, and it helps determine whether you receive a payout due to a decline in revenue, depending on what your harvest numbers are, and it's used to help set your guarantee as well, should it be higher than your projected price. Because remember, if you are in a revenue protection policy, your guarantee is always going to be the higher of your projected price or your harvest price. And that helps give you a safety net in case of price changes during harvest. Now, a big note here is remember, your premium is set based on your projected price, and the harvest price will not change what your crop insurance premium is going to be. It's still going to be based on your projected price. The only thing that they take into account is that price volatility factor, which if you don't understand that concept, make sure you go back and listen to our previous episodes all about the price volatility factor. Now, if you want a deeper dive into revenue protection or harvest prices or projected prices, again, go back to our previous podcast episodes because we spend quite a bit of time going over each of those concepts to help you understand them in more detail. So now that we kind of have a general understanding of the projected price and harvest price and what they do, how does RMA actually come up with those numbers? So let's break it down. How does the RMA determine these prices for dry peas? Well, Unlike things like corn or wheat, dry peas don't have a futures market to base their prices on. So instead, RMA is going to rely on contract pricing data from buyers in your region. So here's how it works. On the projected price, and again, this is set before you're planting, RMA is going to be collecting contract prices being offered by buyers, elevators, processors, and exporters for the upcoming crop year. They're then going to analyze those contracts and determine a regional average price. That final projected price is published by the third business day of March each year, providing a crucial reference point for forecasting coverage options when you go to a roll in your programs or adjust your policies for the upcoming crop year. Now, for your harvest prices, those are going to be set after harvest or during harvest, and instead of future prices, RMA again is going to be looking at contract prices offered in the actual harvest window, so September through November, and they're going to analyze the market conditions in the contracts signed at that time to help determine an updated price. Now, that harvest price is going to be published in January 15th of the following year. So most people in revenue protection in crops like wheat and barley, that harvest price is set generally right after harvest, and so they're able to calculate those losses at that time. But with peas, that harvest price is not set until January 15th, and so those losses can get drug out depending on what happens with that harvest price. Now, here's a question that I have not really been asked a lot in the past, but what happens when RMA can't determine a price? Now, why are we talking about this? Well, new for 2025, if you carry peas and you're in revenue protection, at sales closing, you're going to be required to sign a disclaimer stating that you understand what's going to happen if RMA cannot determine a price. So I thought it was a good idea to go over what that disclaimer is talking about. So this is kind of where it gets interesting. So when a market, or what if a market, is too unstable or the buyers aren't offering contracts? Well, that's when things can get tricky. So if RMA cannot determine a projected price, they're going to set a price using historical data, using the previous year's prices or alternative market sources. That same price will be used as the harvest price, meaning there's no price fluctuation coverage. So if they cannot determine a projected price, they're going to use that as the harvest price no matter what. Now, if they do that, the price volatility factor is going to be set to 0 so that your premium rate will be the same as if you're in yield protection instead of revenue protection. So you won't be penalized for being in revenue protection should they not be able to establish a projected price. Now, let's say that they are able to determine a projected price, but they cannot determine a harvest price. What's going to happen there? Well, if they cannot determine a harvest price, that harvest price is going to default to the projected price. And again, your coverage is going to shift to a yield-based protection instead of revenue protection. And the big difference here is that if the harvest price cannot be set, the premium will not be adjusted like it was when the projected price could not be set. So again, if your harvest price cannot be determined and it defaults to the projected price, the premium due is going to remain the same. There will be no changes to your premium. So now that we understand what's going to happen if they cannot establish a projected or harvest price, which is crucial to understanding why you're signing that waiver, I think even more crucial is why would RMA fail to establish a price? So it can happen for a variety of reasons, but here's a few of the key reasons that you need to know about. So the first one is lack of market activity. If during those discovery periods there's not enough contracts being offered or buyers just simply aren't setting prices yet, that can lead to RMA not establishing one of those prices. There could also be supply chain disruptions. Droughts, floods, or transport issues can disrupt the market confidence and prevent price discovery. If those major importers like India or the EU ban dry pea imports, that can create pricing chaos, and so you might not end up with some of those established prices. Another item to consider is government policy changes. If there's new tariffs or there's new trade sanctions, that can put dry pea exports in limbo, meaning they won't be able to establish a price. Now, there also could be subsidy or farm program shifts that might make buyers hesitant to set forward contract prices, and that could lead to not establishing a price as well. Kind of the fourth key reason to consider is, crop substitutions and demand shifts. Simply put, if buyers switch focus to an alternative crop other than the dry peas that you're seeding, there might be fewer contracts being offered, and that could lead to not having a price established. There could also be consumer dietary trends shifting, and that could impact demand as well, which could impact the price determination, as we spoke about earlier. Again, the reason we're going over this in such detail for the first time is that you're going to have to sign that waiver at sales closing, so you need to understand why you're signing that waiver, which is what we've been talking about. And due to these challenges, if you are insuring dry peas, RMA, again, is going to require you to sign a waiver before the sales closing deadline where you are acknowledging that you understand these issues. So this waiver is going to acknowledge that you understand your price is being set manually by RMA. You won't have a true revenue protection if the market moves, if a price isn't established, and your harvest price could be the same as your projected price as a result. So you need to understand those key concepts as to why you're having to sign those waivers. At the end of the day, what does this all mean for you? All it means is that you now have a further understanding of how your federal crop insurance policy works. That was a deep dive that we just took into how RMA determines the projected and harvest prices for your dried peas, and also what happens if they're unable to establish either one of those prices. Now, if you found this helpful, make sure you share it with your fellow farmers, give us a rating on our podcast, and don't forget to subscribe for more crop insurance insights. Until next time, stay protected, stay informed, and keep those crops covered. From my family to yours, thank you for joining me today. Explore more at cropinsurancepodcast.com, where you'll find episodes, articles, and tools to help you make the most of your coverage. Be sure to subscribe and share with your friends and neighbors. Remember, this info is just a guide. For specific rules, please refer to the Crop Insurance Handbook and your appropriate crop provisions. This institution is an equal opportunity provider and employer.